Hey guys, tonight we're diving headfirst into a tale of art, arrogance, and some seriously angry deities. We're talking about Arachne, a weaver so good she thought she could outdo a goddess. Imagine threads so fine they shimmer like moonlight on water, colors so vibrant they make rainbows look washed out, and a talent so immense it literally redefines self-taught. We're journeying back to ancient Lydia, a place where wool was wealth and purple dye was practically a superpower. You're there, breathing in the sharp tang of dyeing vats, hearing the rhythmic clatter of looms, and feeling the first stirrings of a skill that will bring you both immortal fame and a rather eight-legged problem. Of course, considering you're about to go head-to-head with Athena, the goddess of wisdom, war, and crafts. You probably won't survive this particular contest with all your human bits intact. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's a small click for you, but a giant leap for the algorithm gods, who are only slightly less terrifying than Athena on a bad day. While you're at it, I'd love to know where you're tuning in from and what time it is in your corner of the world. Post your location and local time in the comments below. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your story, your thread of life, begins to unspool not in the marble halls of Athens or the sun-drenched fields of Crete, but in the kingdom of Lydia, a region nestled in western Anatolia, what we now call Turkey. Picture a land of rugged mountains and fertile river valleys, a place known throughout the ancient world for its fabulous wealth, its skilled artisans, and most pertinently for you, its mastery of textiles. This isn't just any old place. Lydia was renowned, a name spoken with a certain reverence when it came to fine wool and especially those deep, luxurious purple dyes that cost more than a king's ransom. The air in your small village of Hypapa often carries a complex perfume, the earthy scent of raw wool, the sharp, almost metallic tang from your father's dyeing vats, and the sweet fragrance of wildflowers blooming on the nearby hills. You are Arachne, and despite the legendary status your name will acquire, your beginnings are humble. You're no princess, no nymph disguised as a mortal. Your father, a man named Idmon from the nearby town of Colophon, is a craftsman, a dyer of wool. He's not just any dyer, he specializes in that most coveted of colors, purple. This isn't the wishy-washy lavender of a forgotten bridesmaid's dress. This is Tyrian purple, or something very much like it, a vibrant, enduring hue extracted from sea snails. A mainstream historical fact about Lydia is its prominent role in the ancient textile industry and its connection to these precious dyes. While Phoenicia, particularly Tyre, is most famously linked with Tyrian purple. The Lydians were no slouches in the purple game either, their coastline and trade connections giving them access to the murex snails, and their artisans skilled in its complex extraction. Your father's hands are perpetually stained that regal color, a mark of his trade, a trade that provides your family with a modest, if not extravagant, living. Your mother isn't often mentioned in the tales that will later be told about you. Perhaps she passed when you were young, or perhaps her story was simply absorbed into the everyday rhythms of village life, unrecorded by the tellers of grand myths. So you grow up in this atmosphere of making, surrounded by the tools and textures of your father's profession. You see the raw, greasy fleeces brought in by shepherds. Watch them being washed and carded, spun into yarn, and then plunged into your father's bubbling vats to emerge transformed, imbued with that incredible, almost luminous purple. A rather quirky and, frankly, nose-wrinkling tidbit about this process is that creating murex purple dye was an astonishingly smelly affair. It required tens of thousands of tiny sea snails to produce even a small quantity of dye, and the extraction process involved letting the snails decompose, which, as you can imagine, created an aroma that could probably curdle milk at 50 paces. Your village might have been known for its beautiful textiles, but it probably wasn't winning any awards for its fragrant air. You'd think a perfume that expensive would at least smell like roses, not, well, ancient rotting seafood. The constant clatter of looms is the background music of your childhood. Weaving is a vital skill here, practiced in nearly every household, producing everything from simple, everyday cloth to the elaborate tapestries that might adorn the homes of the wealthy or the temples of the gods. You see women, and sometimes men, their bodies swaying in a rhythmic dance with their upright looms, their shuttles flying back and forth, transforming plain threads into intricate patterns. You are fascinated by the colors, by the feel of the different fibers, rough wool, smoother linen, perhaps even whispers of silk from the distant east. You don't yet dream of challenging goddesses. Your world is one of tangible things, of the patient transformation of humble materials into objects of beauty and utility. Historians still argue whether you, Arachne, were a purely mythical figure, a cautionary tale spun from the Greek imagination about the dangers of hubris, or if your story might have been inspired by a real, exceptionally skilled weaver from Lydia, whose fame became so legendary that it was absorbed into the realm of myth. Lydia was, after all, a real place with a documented history of textile artistry. Could there have been a woman whose skill was so dazzling, so far beyond the ordinary, that people could only explain it by invoking the gods, and whose pride in her very real achievements set her on a collision course with divine jealousy? It's a tantalizing thought. For now, though, you are simply a girl growing up in Hypaipa. You play with other village children, perhaps using scraps of discarded, dye-stained wool to make small dolls or decorations. You help your father with simple tasks, your small hands learning the feel of the different fibers, your eyes absorbing the subtle variations in color. You are surrounded by a culture that values craftsmanship, that understands the dedication and skill required to create something beautiful and lasting from simple origins. You might not be consciously aware of it yet, but the seeds of your own extraordinary destiny are being sown in this rich Lydian soil, amidst the scent of dyes, the rhythm of looms, and the quiet pride of artisans. The threads of your fate are just beginning to be warped on the great loom of time, and the pattern they will weave is one of dazzling artistry, breathtaking arrogance, and a transformation that will echo for millennia. And you, my dear, are about to pick up that first fateful shuttle. Just try not to get too tangled up with the deities. They have a notoriously short fuse when it comes to mortals who outshine them, especially in their own signature crafts. It's like beating your tech-savvy uncle at his favorite video game. Expect a swift and disproportionate retribution. The sense of your father's dye vats and the rhythmic thrum of village looms have been the constant backdrop to your early years in Hypaipa. You've watched countless hours of fleece being transformed into vibrant yarn, and yarn into cloth. But watching is one thing, doing is another entirely. And it's when your own fingers, still small and nimble from childhood games, first truly engage with the threads that your destiny begins to reveal itself with startling clarity. It's not a gradual awakening, it's more like a sudden, breathtaking recognition, as if a hidden part of you has been asleep and now, with the touch of wool and linen, springs vividly to life. Perhaps it starts innocently enough. Your father, Idmon, might give you a small, simple frame loom, a child's version of the towering warp-weighted looms the village women use. He shows you the basics: how to warp the threads, how to pass the shuttle, how to beat the weft tight. These are skills that nearly every girl in Lydia learns to some degree. A mainstream historical fact being that weaving was a fundamental and highly valued domestic art across ancient Mediterranean cultures. It wasn't just about making cloth, it was a measure of a woman's industry, skill, and contribution to the household. But with you, something extraordinary happens. Where other children might struggle with tangled threads and uneven edges, your fingers take to the task with an almost unnerving and uncanny grace. They seem to possess an innate intelligence, moving with a speed and precision that belies your tender years and lack of formal training. The shuttle doesn't just pass through the warp, it dances, it flies. The threads don't just form cloth, they flow together under your touch like water, creating a fabric so smooth, so perfectly even. It astounds those who see it. It's like watching a child pick up a lyre for the first time and play a complex melody by ear. It's baffling, a little unsettling, and undeniably brilliant. Your father, a man accustomed to the patient, methodical work of dyeing, watches you with a mixture of pride and bewilderment. He knows the effort that goes into true craftsmanship, the years of practice. Yet here you are, a mere girl, your small hands weaving with a preternatural skill that seems to bypass the usual learning curve entirely. Maybe he tries to teach you a new pattern, a slightly more complex technique, and you not only master it instantly but intuitively improve upon it, adding a subtle flourish, a more harmonious blending of colors that leaves him speechless. You're not just learning, you're innovating, almost from your first touch. This isn't just about technical proficiency, though you have that in spades. It's the artistry, the intuitive sense of design and color that sets you apart. You see possibilities in the threads that others miss. You can envision intricate patterns, subtle gradations of hue, textures that evoke the softness of a cloud or the roughness of bark, and then, with what seems like effortless ease, you bring them into being on your loom. While other weavers might rely on established patterns or traditional motifs, your mind teems with original designs, images drawn from the natural world around you, the flight of a bird, the curl of a fern, the shimmer of light on water, translated into thread with breathtaking fidelity. There's a peculiar, almost magical quality to your work, even in these early stages. A quirky tidbit from the ancient world is the belief that some highly skilled weavers could imbue their textiles with special properties, weaving spells or prayers into the fabric through particular knots or patterns, or by chanting as they worked. While you're not consciously trying to weave enchantments, you're far too practical for that. Your creations seem to possess a life, a vibrancy, that borders on the magical. The colors glow with an inner light. The images seem almost to breathe. People who touch your early weavings might comment on their extraordinary softness, their unexpected warmth, or the almost hypnotic quality of their designs. It's not sorcery, just an almost supernatural level of skill, which, let's be honest, is often more impressive and reliable than actual hocus pocus. You become utterly absorbed in your craft. The games of childhood hold less appeal. The chatter of other villagers fades into the background. Your true joy, your most profound engagement with the world, is found at your loom. You spend hours there, from the first light of dawn until the oil lamps are lit, your fingers a blur, your mind lost in the intricate dance of color and form. Your small room, perhaps, is filled with the scent of lanolin from the wool, the faint dust of flax, and the growing collection of your early masterpieces. Your father, Idmon, initially just a dyer, might find his own work subtly shifting as he tries to create new shades of purple, richer crimsons, and more delicate blues to keep pace with your voracious appetite for color and your ability to use it in ways no one in Hipipa has ever seen. The fame of your fingers, those conduits of an almost divine talent, begins to spread beyond your own household, then beyond your village. Other weavers come to see your work, at first perhaps skeptically, then with growing astonishment and admiration. They watch your hands move with that uncanny grace, that fluid precision, and they struggle to understand how such skill is possible in one so young, so apparently untaught by any human master. Historians still argue whether the most highly skilled textile artists in the ancient world typically operated as independent artisans, like you seem to be emerging as, or if they were more commonly found within the structured environments of temple workshops producing sacred vestments, or attached to elite households weaving luxury goods for the wealthy, and what degree of creative autonomy they truly possessed within those systems. You, however, seem to be a force of nature, your loom, your kingdom, your talent, your only master. Your destiny is no longer a vague, unformed thing. It is as clear and vibrant as the most brilliant threads you weave. Your fingers have found their purpose. They are not merely skilled, they are touched by genius, by something that defies easy explanation. And as you sit at your loom, the threads of your own fate are being woven. each pass of the shuttle drawing you closer to a future where your extraordinary gift will bring you both unparalleled renown and a confrontation of mythic proportions. For now, you are simply Arachne of Lydia, a young woman whose hands hold a truly astonishing power, a power that is beginning to make the world sit up and take notice. And well, you're probably just wondering where you can get more of that really good indigo yarn. That uncanny grace with which your fingers first danced among the threads has now blossomed into an unwavering, all-consuming dedication. The loom is no longer just a tool or a pastime. It has become your life, the very center of your existence. Every waking thought, every ounce of your energy, seems to funnel into the vibrant, intricate worlds you conjure from wool, linen, and perhaps even the whisper-fine strands of silk that find their way to Lydia through distant trade routes. You are not just a weaver, you are the weaver, and your skill is rapidly ascending to a level that seems to defy mortal limits, pushing beyond mere excellence into the realm of the truly miraculous. Your days are a testament to this devotion. You rise before the sun has fully painted the Lydian sky, your first thoughts already on the design taking shape on your loom, or the new pattern itching to be born in your mind. You eat sparingly, almost distractedly, your mind still half entangled in the complexities of a new tapestry, social obligations, the idle chatter of the village, the usual pastimes of girls your age. These hold little interest for you. Why gossip about who's courting whom when you can be resurrecting ancient myths in thread, or capturing the fleeting iridescence of a kingfisher's wing with a perfectly chosen filament of silk? It's the ultimate artistic immersion, like a modern-day coder on a 72-hour caffeine-fueled project, or a gamer completely lost in a VR world. Only your world is made of tangible, breathtaking beauty. Your social life probably consists of explaining to your father why you need even finer yarns, or shooing away curious onlookers who just don't understand the sanctity of the zone. The primary loom of your era, the warp-weighted loom, is a physically demanding instrument, standing for hours, your arms constantly reaching, your body maintaining the tension of the warp threads with carefully hung loom weights. Beating the weft upwards, it's hard work. Yet you seem tireless, fueled by an inner fire, a creative urgency that transcends physical fatigue. Your workspace? Perhaps a sunlit corner of your father's house or a small shed dedicated to your craft, is a sanctuary of ordered creation. Hanks of yarn in every conceivable color hang like captured rainbows. Spindles, shuttles, combs, and loom weights lie within easy reach, extensions of your own skilled hands. The air is thick with the scent of wool and flax, and the only sound is the rhythmic thwack of the beater bar, the soft whisper of the shuttle, and your own quiet breathing. A quirky aspect of weaving in ancient times was that weavers often sang or recited epic poems or traditional work songs to maintain rhythm and pass the long hours. You, however, might work in an almost preternatural silence. Your concentration so absolute, so fiercely focused, that sound itself seems an intrusion. Your music is the intricate harmony of the emerging tapestry itself. Your skill now demonstrably surpasses all mortal measure. You don't just weave cloth, you paint with thread. The images you create are so lifelike they seem ready to step off the fabric. If you weave a seascape, onlookers swear they can smell the salt spray and hear the crash of waves. If you depict a forest, they feel the cool shade of the trees and imagine the rustle of unseen creatures in the undergrowth. You master techniques that others can only dream of, perhaps even inventing new ways to blend colors, to create subtle textures, to achieve a three-dimensional quality in your work that is simply unheard of. The fineness of your threads becomes legendary. Some say you can spin wool so fine it is invisible until it catches the light, and then weave it into fabrics that are softer and more ethereal than mist. Ancient Greek vase paintings and surviving textile fragments, as well as vivid literary descriptions, give us a mainstream historical fact. Textile art in this period was capable of incredible sophistication, often depicting complex mythological scenes and detailed narratives. The stories of gods and heroes, epic battles, and pastoral idylls were all fair game for the skilled weaver. Your work takes this tradition and elevates it to an entirely new plane. You don't just illustrate myths, you imbue them with a psychological depth, a nuanced emotion that makes the ancient figures seem startlingly real. Their joys and sorrows palpable. Historians still argue whether these magnificent ancient tapestries, most of which are lost to us and known only through such secondary accounts, were primarily valued by their society for their dazzling technical skill and sheer aesthetic beauty, or if their narrative content, the stories they told, the moral lessons they might impart, or even the political statements they could subtly convey, but was considered of equal, if not greater, significance. In your work, technique and content are so perfectly fused that such a distinction seems meaningless. Your artistic evolution is rapid and breathtaking. You move from capturing the precise beauty of nature, a dew-laden spiderweb, a blooming anemone, to tackling the grand themes of mythology and human experience. You weave the stories of Zeus and his many amorous adventures, a theme you'll return to with consequences, the tragic tales of heroes, the playful antics of nymphs and satyrs. But you don't just copy the old stories, you reinterpret them, often with a subtle wit or a piercing insight that reveals the humanity, and sometimes the folly, within the divine. Your inspiration seems boundless, drawn from the world around you, from the tales told by firelight, from the depths of your own fertile imagination, and perhaps even from vivid dreams that visit you in the few hours you allow yourself for sleep. This intense dedication, this almost superhuman skill, inevitably sets you apart. While some villagers look upon you with awe, others might feel a touch of unease, even fear. Such talent, so far beyond the norm, can seem uncanny, perhaps even touched by forces beyond the mortal realm. You might find yourself somewhat isolated, not through deliberate exclusion, but because your concerns, your passions, are so different from those of your peers. Your loom becomes your confidant, your sanctuary, the place where you are most truly yourself. Anyone trying to distract you with talk of village festivals or eligible young shepherds probably gets a look that could freeze olive oil. Your focus is absolute. The threads call and you must answer. Your life has found its single, unwavering purpose to weave. And the tapestries emerging from your loom are no longer just beautiful objects. They are declarations, testaments to a skill so profound it seems destined to challenge the very heavens. Your loom, once a private sanctuary where your world narrowed to the intricate dance of warp and weft, is slowly, inexorably, becoming a stage. The sheer, undeniable brilliance of your artistry cannot be contained within the humble confines of your Lydian village of Hepipa. Word of your breathtaking tapestries, those silent, vibrant stories spun from thread, begins to travel, carried on the tongues of awestruck merchants, wandering travelers, and anyone fortunate enough to have laid eyes on your creations. Fame, that subtle, insistent weaver, is beginning to spin its first delicate yet surprisingly strong threads around you. It starts as a local phenomenon, perhaps a particularly stunning piece you completed, a depiction of the dawn so vivid one could almost feel the rising sun's warmth, or a scene of woodland creatures so lifelike they seem to twitch an ear, is acquired by a wealthy citizen of a nearby town, or gifted to a local temple. It's seen, admired. And people ask, who wove this marvel? Your name, Arachne, daughter of Idmon the Dyer, begins to circulate. Then, as Lydia was a key player in the extensive trade networks of the ancient world, a mainstream historical fact that connected Anatolia with Greece, Persia, Egypt, and beyond, your tapestries, or at least the stories about them, start to travel further. A merchant carrying Lydian wools and dyes might also carry tales of the girl whose skill with the loom surpassed anything ever witnessed. Maybe a small, exquisite piece of your work even finds its way into a shipment of luxury goods heading for a distant port. The result is that admirers, their curiosity piqued by these incredible accounts, begin to seek you out. They come not just from the surrounding Lydian countryside, but from farther afield, hardy folk who have undertaken journeys specifically to witness your artistry. Imagine the scene: your quiet village, accustomed to its rhythms of farming and craft, now sees a trickle, then a steady stream of curious visitors asking for the house of Arachne, the weaver. You might be working at your loom, lost in your focused silence, only to look up and find a small crowd gathered, watching your every move with rapt attention. It's like being a local artisan who suddenly finds their little workshop featured in an international travel guide. The Beyoncé of bobbins, if you will. Ovid, one of the primary tellers of your tale centuries later, even claims that nymphs would abandon their streams and forests to come and marvel at your skill. Nymphs of the river Pactolus, famed for its legendary gold, would leave its shimmering banks. Nymphs of the vineyards of Mount Molus would forsake their grape-tending duties. They'd gather, these ethereal beings, to watch not only your finished tapestries, which they admired greatly, but also the very process of your weaving, the way you deftly prepared the raw wool, the effortless grace with which your fingers moved the shuttle, the almost magical emergence of images beneath your touch. This is a testament to how your fame was perceived. Your skill so extraordinary it could draw even the shy, elusive spirits of nature out of their hidden domains. It must have been quite something, having actual nymphs as your fan club. Though one hopes they didn't drip river water all over your best yarns. This growing attention is a new element in your life. How do you react? Perhaps initially, it's a distraction. Your focus is so intense, your communion with your craft so profound, that the presence of onlookers feels like an intrusion. You might try to ignore them, to lose yourself once more in the intricate world of your loom. But a part of you, the part that knows the extraordinary nature of your gift, might also feel a stirring of pride, a quiet satisfaction in their undisguised awe. You are, after all, still human, and the appreciation of others for something you've poured your entire being into is a potent affirmation. Maybe you even start to enjoy the hushed reverence, the gasps of wonder as a particularly beautiful section of your tapestry is revealed. It's certainly more engaging than weaving for an audience of, say, particularly discerning sheep. Your father, Idmon, might find his own status subtly elevated. He's no longer just Idmon the dyer, he's Idmon, father of Arachne, the Wonder Weaver. Perhaps his dyeing business even gets a boost, as people associate his name with the unparalleled quality of your work. Your village of Hypipa itself might become a dot on the map for those seeking out artistic marvels. It's a quirky aspect of ancient and modern societies that sometimes exceptionally skilled artisans become almost like living tourist attractions. People don't just want to buy the finished product, they want to witness the miracle of its creation, to see the master at work. You are becoming one such attraction. The tapestries you create during this period are ambitious, showcasing the full range of your incredible talent. You might weave vast mythological scenes teeming with figures, each expression, each fold of drapery rendered with exquisite detail. Or perhaps you create delicate, jewel-like pieces, intimate studies of nature that capture the fleeting beauty of a butterfly's wing or the subtle blush of a ripening fig. Whatever the subject, your work is characterized by its incredible realism, its vibrant color, and a sense of life that seems to emanate from the very threads. Historians still argue whether the primary market for such high-status crafts as your elaborate narrative tapestries in the ancient world was predominantly domestic, adorning the homes of local Lydian elites and temples, or if a significant portion of this luxury production was specifically created for export, driven by the discerning tastes and demands of foreign cultures eager for Anatolian exotica. Given your rising fame, your work is likely desired by both. As word of your skill spreads, so too does the question of its origin. Such talent, so far beyond the ordinary, so seemingly effortless in its perfection, surely it cannot be a purely human achievement. The whispers begin, subtle at first, then more insistent. Your skill must be divinely inspired. Perhaps Athena herself, goddess of wisdom, warfare, and the domestic crafts, including weaving, has blessed you, guided your hands. This is the admiration of your audience tipping over into awe, into an attempt to explain the inexplicable. For now, these are just murmurs, background noise to the clatter of your loom and the adulation of your visitors. But these whispers are laying the foundation for the next, more perilous stage of your journey. Your fame is woven. The first threads of your fateful pride are now being warped alongside it. The stream of admirers to your Lydian home continues, their faces a mixture of wonder and disbelief as they gaze upon the tapestries that flow from your loom. Your fame, once a gentle brook, is now a widening river, carrying your name far beyond Hypaipa. But with this escalating renown, a new kind of murmur begins to weave itself into the conversations of those who witness your artistry. It's a whisper, at first hesitant, then gaining confidence, such unparalleled skill, such breathtaking beauty, surely cannot be born of mortal effort alone. Surely, they say, this must be a gift from the gods. And the goddess whose name is most frequently invoked is, of course, Athena, or Athena Parthenos, Pallas Athena, goddess of wisdom, strategic warfare, and, crucially for you, the patron deity of all domestic arts and crafts, especially weaving. A mainstream historical fact is that in ancient Greece, extraordinary talent in any specific field was very often attributed to the direct favor, inspiration, or even secret tutelage of the god or goddess who presided over that particular domain. Musicians were touched by Apollo and the Muses, smiths by Hephaestus, and weavers. Well, any weaver displaying genius-level ability would naturally be seen as a favorite of Athena. Her temples often housed magnificent looms, and rituals like the weaving of the sacred peplos for her statue in Athens underscored her deep connection to this art form. So, when people see you, Arachne, creating fabrics that seem to shimmer with an otherworldly light, depicting scenes with a grace and power that no other weaver can match. The conclusion seems obvious to them. Athena herself must be guiding your hands. These divine gift murmurs start subtly. An old woman, shaking her head in awe before one of your finished pieces, might mutter, "The goddess truly smiles upon this child." A traveling scholar, scrutinizing the impossible fineness of your threads, might declare, "Only Athena could impart such knowledge of the loom." Even those nymphs, your earliest supernatural fan club, might carry tales back to their woods and streams, their whispers rustling through the leaves and bubbling in the brooks. Arachne weaves as if Athena's own spirit possesses her fingers. It's the ancient world's equivalent of someone seeing a child prodigy pianist and immediately assuming they've made a pact with a musical demon, or at least have a very pushy, divinely connected piano teacher. How do you react to these persistent suggestions? At first, perhaps you barely notice them, lost as you are in the intensity of your creation. Your focus is on the next thread, the next color, the next intricate detail taking shape under your touch. The buzzing admiration of the crowd is just background noise. But gradually, the whispers become too loud to ignore, and they begin to prickle. You, Arachne, who have dedicated every fiber of your being to your craft, who have spent countless solitary hours honing your skill, whose fingers ache and whose eyes burn from the strain of your relentless pursuit of perfection, you hear them attributing your hard-won mastery to someone else, even if that someone is a powerful goddess. It's a bit like you've pulled an all-nighter to finish a brilliant project, and then your boss waltzes in and takes all the credit. Or worse, thanks the office plant for its inspirational presence. A quirky tidbit from the era is that some artisans, particularly those creating exceptional works, would indeed make a point of dedicating their creations to the patron deity of their craft. They might offer the first or finest piece as a votive offering at a temple, a tangible way of acknowledging divine inspiration or seeking continued favor, while still taking pride in their own role as the human conduit for that skill. This was seen as a pious and wise act, a way to keep the gods on your side. You, however, feel no such inclination. The idea of offering up your painstakingly crafted work as a mere reflection of Athena's glory doesn't sit well with you. Not at all. Your irritation grows. When people praise your work and then immediately follow it with, Athena has truly blessed you. You might offer a tight smile or perhaps a curt correction. The skill is mine. You might think, or even begin to say under your breath. You remember the long hours, the calluses on your fingers, the fierce concentration it takes to bring these visions to life. Was Athena there beside you in the pre-dawn chill? Guiding your sleepy fingers, did Athena help you unpick that disastrously tangled section of warp threads last week? No, that was all you, Arachne. Your dedication, your sweat, your unique, innate talent. The more exquisite your tapestries become, the more lifelike your figures, the more breathtaking your command of color and texture, the stronger the murmurs of divine intervention grow. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in their eyes your work is too good to be merely human. Therefore it must be divine. And if it's divine, then you, the mortal weaver, are merely an instrument, a vessel. This notion begins to chafe at your burgeoning pride like a coarsely spun thread. Historians still argue whether the ancient Greeks, when they spoke of divine inspiration in art, genuinely believed in literal, direct intervention by a god on a case-by-case basis. Athena literally grabbing the shuttle, so to speak, or if this was often a more metaphorical way of acknowledging the mysterious, seemingly inexplicable nature of true genius, a way of giving a name to that spark that elevates skill to artistry. But for you, listening to these constant attributions, it feels very literal and very dismissive of your own monumental effort. So, you work even harder, pushing the boundaries of your craft further still, as if to prove through sheer, undeniable excellence that this skill is yours and yours alone. You create tapestries of such complexity and beauty that they leave onlookers utterly speechless, hoping, perhaps, that the sheer force of your artistry will silence the whispers. But it has the opposite effect. The more miraculous you're weaving, the more convinced they become that Athena is your silent partner. It's a frustrating feedback loop. The better you get at proving it's you, the more they believe it's her. The atmosphere around you subtly shifts. The initial simple admiration for a talented village girl is now tinged with a kind of religious awe, almost a fear. People look at you differently, as if you are touched by something beyond their understanding, something a little dangerous. And you, Arachne, are beginning to feel the first dangerous stirrings of a fierce, defiant pride, a determination to claim your gift as entirely your own, regardless of who or what might take offense. The seeds of the challenge are being sown, watered by the persistent, well-meaning, but ultimately maddening whispers of divine intervention. The whispers that your extraordinary skill is a divine gift from Athena, initially a subtle undercurrent to the admiration you receive, have grown into a persistent chorus. Every perfect tapestry, every gasp of awe from an onlooker, seems to be inevitably followed by, truly the goddess guides her hands. And you, Arachne, have had enough. The irritation that once merely pricked at your concentration has now festered into a deep, burning resentment. It's one thing to be admired, it's quite another to feel like your very essence. Your hard-won artistry is being erased, casually attributed to some unseen deity, however powerful she might be. Perhaps it's a particularly gushing admirer who pushes you over the edge, someone who dismisses your years of toil with a breezy, "Oh, you mortals are so lucky when a goddess chooses you as her instrument." Or maybe it's a condescending remark from a rival weaver, someone whose own mediocre talents are safely and piously attributed to humble learning, implying your brilliance is somehow unearned, a mere celestial handout. Whatever the specific trigger, a dam of patience within you finally bursts. You straighten up from your loom, your eyes, usually so focused on the intricate details of your work, now flashing with a dangerous fire. The shuttle, for once, lies still in your hand. My skill is my own. The declaration rips through the hushed reverence of your workspace, sharp and defiant. Heads turn, The murmurs cease abruptly. You can probably hear a pin drop, or maybe just a particularly timid nymph quietly fainting in the corner. Athena taught me nothing these hands, and you might hold them up, calloused and strong, perhaps still faintly stained with the dyes your father uses. These hands alone have mastered this craft. Every thread, every design, every technique. It comes from me, from my work, my mind, my soul. This isn't just a casual dismissal of divine aid. This is a fierce, unequivocal claim of absolute artistic autonomy. In a world where the gods are believed to meddle in mortal affairs constantly, where their favor is sought and their wrath feared, such a bold assertion is almost unthinkable. It's the ancient equivalent of a startup founder declaring they built their billion-dollar empire with absolutely no help from anyone, no luck, no societal advantages, just pure, unadulterated personal genius. It's a bold claim, and in your case, a rather perilous one. Your reasoning, from your perspective, is perfectly sound. You remember the relentless hours of practice, the nights spent dreaming of new patterns, the sheer physical exertion of working the loom day after day. You recall the frustration of early failures, the painstaking process of unraveling mistakes and starting again, the unwavering dedication that has consumed your entire existence. Where was Athena during those struggles? Your talent, you believe, is innate. Yes, a spark you were born with, but it was your relentless effort that fanned it into a blazing fire. To give credit to a goddess who never once appeared to offer a lesson, never once guided your shuttle, feels like a betrayal of your own life's work. You're not just taking credit where credit is due, you're wresting it back from the jaws of Olympus. The reaction from those around you is likely a mixture of stunned silence, horrified gasps, and perhaps a few secretly approving nods from fellow artisans who have long felt overshadowed by divine attributions. Your father, Idmon, if he's present, is probably frantically trying to signal you to be quiet, his face a mask of terror. He knows the old stories. He knows that the gods of Olympus are not known for their thick skins or their appreciation of mortal audacity. A core tenet of Greek mythology, a mainstream historical fact, really, is the concept of hubris, that excessive pride, that arrogant defiance in the face of the divine, which almost invariably leads to nemesis or divine retribution. You, Arachne, are currently tap dancing on the very edge of a hubristic cliff. A quirky, though perhaps wise, custom in ancient Greece for those who experienced great success or fortune was to engage in certain apotropaic rituals, actions or sacrifices designed to ward off the envy of the gods or the evil eye. They might deliberately downplay their achievements, or offer significant portions of their gains to the temples, all in an effort to avoid appearing too big for their britches and attracting unwanted divine attention. You, it seems, have decided to skip that particular bit of cautious piety. You're not warding off divine jealousy. You're practically sending it a gilded invitation with an RSVP card. This bold declaration marks a turning point. It's no longer just an internal irritation. It's an open challenge to the prevailing belief system. And with each tapestry you complete, each new marvel that flows from your loom, your confidence in your own self-made genius solidifies. The admiration of the crowds, even when tinged with their persistent Athena did it theories, paradoxically fuels your defiance. You see their awe, and it reinforces your belief in your own exceptionalism. If they think your work is godlike, then perhaps you are as good as a god, or at least as good as the goddess who supposedly holds dominion over your craft. Historians still argue whether the ancient Greek understanding of hubris was primarily centered on overt actions of defiance against the gods, such as sacrilege or a direct challenge, or if it could also encompass a dangerous internal state of mind, an excessive, unacknowledged pride even if not yet expressed in a confrontational act, that could, in itself, be enough to attract divine displeasure. Your current pronouncements are certainly ticking the overt action box with a very thick quill. Your pride, once a small, flickering flame of self-belief, is now roaring. You are Arachne, the untaught, the unparalleled, the weaver whose skill is entirely her own. You've thrown down a gauntlet, not yet at Athena's feet directly, but certainly at her reputation and her supposed influence. The Lydian threads that began your story are now being woven into a pattern of breathtaking artistry and even more breathtaking arrogance. And the Olympian gods, particularly one sharp-eyed, gray-eyed goddess of wisdom and crafts, are not known for ignoring such bold declarations from mortals for very long. The loom of fate is beginning to pick up speed, and the shuttle carries threads of both glory and impending doom. Your bold declaration, "My skill is my own. Athena taught me nothing," hangs in the Lydian air. A challenge thrown not just to the onlookers in your workshop, but, by implication, to the very heavens. The initial shock among your audience might have given way to a nervous, almost fearful silence. Yeah, but you, Arachne, are not one to back down from your own pronouncements. That fierce denial of divine aid, once a defense of your hard-won artistry, now begins to morph, to swell. Your justifiable pride in your abilities starts to curdle into something far more dangerous: outright arrogance. Your confidence, once a steady flame, now spins wildly, threatening to become an inferno of hubris. It's not just that you deny Athena's tutelage anymore. You start to subtly, then not so subtly, disparage the very idea that anyone, mortal or divine, could have taught you anything of value. You are, in your own eyes, a singular phenomenon, a self-created prodigy. When well-meaning elders or even your increasingly terrified father, Idmon, try to caution you, reminding you of the old stories where mortals got into serious trouble for offending the gods, you wave away their concerns with an impatient flick of your wrist. What do they know of true, unparalleled genius? They haven't spent their lives at the loom, wrestling beauty from stubborn threads. Their warnings sound like the buzzing of inconsequential flies. Easily ignored, slightly annoying. It seems your ego is now so large it needs its own dedicated loom. Probably gold-plated. The mainstream historical fact, underpinning all Greek mythology, is the strict hierarchy between mortals and gods. The Olympian deities demanded respect, piety, and constant acknowledgement of their superior power and skill in their respective domains. To boast that you were equal to a god was bad enough. To suggest you were better was practically signing your own divine restraining order, usually delivered by a thunderbolt or a sudden, inconvenient transformation into a lesser life form. And you, Arachne, are now openly, loudly, daring to compare your skill with the loom to that of Athena herself, the very goddess of weaving. Let Athena come, you might declare to the astonished crowd that still gathers, though perhaps thinned now by the more prudent souls. Let her try her skill against mine, then we shall see whose hands are truly guided by genius, and whose are merely practiced. The audacity is breathtaking. You're not just claiming your skill is your own, you're implying that the goddess, the supposed fount of all weaving wisdom, might actually be second best. You're essentially trash-talking a deity, which, in the grand scheme of things, rarely ends well for the trash talker. Your boasts become more frequent, more extravagant. You point to your latest tapestry, perhaps a scene so vibrant, so technically flawless, that it does indeed seem to surpass anything ever seen before. And you exclaim, "Could Athena herself weave such a marvel? I think not. Her designs are staid, her colors predictable. My art is alive. You are completely lacking a filter, the kind that usually prevents mortals from saying things that get them turned into newts or unfortunate constellations. Why this dangerous escalation? Perhaps it's the intoxicating effect of continuous praise, even if it's often misattributed. The sheer, unadulterated joy of your own creative power might be blinding you to the potential consequences of your words. Or maybe it's a deeper insecurity, a need to constantly assert your worth because, on some level, the idea of divine talent still gnaws at you. Whatever the psychological roots, your hubris is now in full, reckless bloom. You're like a celebrity whose early successes lead to increasingly outlandish behavior, convinced of their own invincibility? The ancient Greeks were certainly familiar with such tales of woe. A quirky tidbit about their society is the role of professional storytellers, or rhapsodes, who would travel from town to town reciting epic poems and myths. These narratives were not just entertainment, they often served as powerful moral lessons, frequently highlighting the catastrophic downfall of mortals who exhibited excessive pride or dared to challenge the gods. Characters like Niobe, who boasted of her many children compared to Leto's two and suffered horrifically, or Marsyas, who challenged Apollo to a musical contest and was flayed for his presumption. These were well-known cautionary tales. You, Arachne, seem to have either missed those particular storytelling sessions or decided they simply didn't apply to someone of your unique talents. Bad things happen to other hubristic mortals. You might subconsciously reason, the atmosphere around you continues to shift. The initial awe is now mixed with a palpable fear among many onlookers. They admire your skill, yes, but they are terrified of the divine wrath you seem determined to provoke. Some might even try to physically cover your mouth when you start on one of your boasts, only to be furiously shaken off. A few reckless souls, perhaps those who enjoy a bit of drama or who are genuinely convinced of your supremacy, might even egg you on, their whispered encouragements fueling your already inflated self-regard. It's a dangerous echo chamber you're creating. Historians still argue whether the portrayal of the Greek gods in these myths as entities so easily offended, so prone to jealousy and vindictive punishment, was a straightforward reflection of popular religious belief about divine temperament, or if these stories also functioned as more complex allegories about human psychology, the intoxicating nature of power and ambition, and the inherent limits of mortal endeavor in a universe ultimately governed by forces beyond human control. Your story, Arachne, is rapidly becoming a prime exhibit in that ongoing debate. Are the gods truly this touchy? Or are you just pushing buttons no sane mortal would ever dream of pushing? Your loom, once a symbol of your dedication and artistry, is now becoming the stage for an impending cosmic drama. Every perfect thread you lay, every breathtaking image you complete, no longer just speaks of your skill, it screams your defiance. Your confidence has indeed spun wildly out of control, and you are weaving a tapestry of arrogance whose central motif is a direct challenge to the divine. The whispers of Athena's name are no longer about her gifting you skill. They are about how long she will tolerate your outrageous boasts before her legendary patience finally snaps. Your boasts, Arachne, spun with the same reckless abandon as your most intricate tapestries, are now echoing far beyond the confines of your Lydian village. Words have wings, especially when they carry the scent of outrageous arrogance and a direct challenge to the divine. And while Mount Olympus, the very real mountain in northern Greece believed to be the literal home of the major gods, might not have had a fiber optic connection or a celestial social media feed, news has a way of traveling. The divine grapevine, as it were, is surprisingly efficient, especially when a mortal starts getting too big for their sandals and publicly dissing a goddess in her own area of expertise. Perhaps it's one of those nymphs, your erstwhile admirers, who, now thoroughly alarmed by your escalating hubris, flits away from your workshop to whisper a concerned report to a river god, who mentions it to a minor sea deity, who happens to be chatting with Poseidon during his lunch break. And from there, well, word gets around the Olympian water cooler pretty quickly. Or maybe it's simpler than that. A quirky tidbit from mythology is that gods often had their preferred messengers or animal associates who kept them informed. Athena, with her keen intellect and strategic mind, is often depicted with her wise owl. It's entirely possible her sharp-eyed, feathery little companion, gliding silently over the mortal world, catches wind of your increasingly loud pronouncements in Hippipa and delivers a swift, feathered dispatch straight to the goddess's ear. Hoo boy, boss. It might hoot. You are not going to believe what this Lydian weaver is saying. So, up on shimmering Mount Olympus, amidst the clouds and the ambrosia-scented breezes, Athena, goddess of wisdom, patron of heroes, champion of just causes, and, yes, the undisputed queen of the loom, learns of your audacious claims. Imagine her, perhaps in her own celestial workshop, surrounded by tools of divine craftsmanship, or maybe in council with her father Zeus, her gray eyes, usually so calm and discerning, narrowing slightly as the report unfolds. She hears of a mortal girl in Lydia, a weaver of admittedly prodigious talent, who not only denies any divine assistance, but openly boasts that her skill surpasses that of Athena herself. That you, Arachne, have effectively thrown down a challenge. Let Athena come and try me. Her initial reaction isn't likely one of sputtering rage or immediate thunderbolt hurling fury. Athena is, after all, the goddess of wisdom. She's seen her fair share of mortal folly, of puffed-up egos, of fleeting arrogance that usually burns itself out or meets a messy end without her direct intervention. She probably rolled her gray eyes so hard she saw the back of her own divine brain. Another one. She might sigh to herself, thinking of all the other mortals who briefly shone too brightly before self-destructing. She probably has a celestial version of a Google alert set up for her name, linked with terms like better than or dare to challenge, and it's been pinging rather annoyingly from Lydia lately. But your case, Arachne, is a little different. It's not just general run-of-the-mill mortal arrogance. This is specific. This is personal. You are claiming superiority in her domain, the very craft she embodies and champions. It's one thing for a mortal to be proud. It's another for them to directly impugn the honor and skill of their patron deity. This isn't just hubris, it's a direct slap in the divine face with a particularly well-woven glove. The sheer persistence of your boasts, the detail with which you critique her supposed staid designs, begins to cut through her divine detachment. Historians still argue whether the depictions of the Olympian gods engaging in such very human-like emotions as jealousy, wounded pride, and swift anger were meant to be taken as literal representations of divine personalities by their ancient Greek worshippers. Or if these stories also served as more complex allegories about the nature of power itself. The responsibilities of authority, and perhaps even as subtle critiques of human rulers who behaved with similar capriciousness. Was Athena genuinely miffed that a mortal thought her color palettes were predictable? Or is this part of a larger narrative about the necessary order of the cosmos and the dangers of unchecked ambition? Probably a bit of both, which doesn't make your position any less precarious. Athena, being the strategic thinker she is, would weigh her options. She could simply zap you into a lower life form from afar. A quick thunderbolt, a divinely induced illness, a sudden plague of particularly aggressive moths in your wool supply. Easy. But where's the lesson in that? Where's the opportunity to demonstrate not just her power, but her superior skill and wisdom? Simply squashing you like a bug might satisfy a momentary irritation, but it wouldn't address the core of your challenge. Nor would it serve as a particularly instructive example to other mortals who might be getting similar uppity ideas. No, a more nuanced approach is required. Her divine honor has been publicly challenged. Her expertise has been questioned. And a mortal, however talented, is actively encouraging disrespect for the natural order. The hierarchy that keeps the cosmos and the Olympian power structure running smoothly. This cannot be allowed to stand unchallenged. So, the news from Lydia, detailing your ever-growing arrogance and your explicit desire for a contest, settles in Athena's mind not as a cause for immediate, blind rage, but as a problem requiring a carefully considered, multi-stage solution. Stage 1 might involve a warning, a chance for the foolish mortal to redeem herself. Stage 2? Well, Stage 2 would depend entirely on your reaction to Stage 1. The looms of Olympus may operate on a grander scale than yours, weaving the fates of nations and the destinies of heroes, but the principles of tension, structure, and the clear display of a pattern are universal. And Athena is now contemplating a design for your future, Arachne, a pattern that will serve as a stark and enduring reminder of the perils of mortal arrogance when it brushes up against divine prerogative. The goddess of crafts is preparing to craft a lesson, and you are to be its primary and rather unfortunate material. Up on Mount Olympus, Athena has heard your audacious claims. Arachne, your words, sharp as newly forged needles, have pricked the divine consciousness. But rather than unleashing immediate Olympian fury, a tactic perhaps more suited to her father Zeus or her uncle Poseidon, the goddess of wisdom opts for a more considered approach. A personal visit is in order, a final chance for you to wind back your rapidly unspooling thread of hubris. Of course, she's not going to show up in her full, awe-inspiring, battle-ready glory that tends to make mortals either faint or spontaneously combust, neither of which is conducive to a reasoned conversation. No, for this delicate operation, a disguise is required. So it is that one ordinary Lydian day, as you are at your loom, perhaps still basking in the glow of your latest boast about being the undisputed champion weaver of the cosmos, a new figure appears at the edge of the crowd that perpetually seems to gather around your workspace. It's an old woman, deeply bent with age, her hair the color of winter frost, her face a roadmap of wrinkles, each one telling a story of long years and, presumably, a great deal of unsolicited advice-giving. She leans heavily on a gnarled staff, her movements slow and deliberate. This isn't just any old crone, this is Athena, a mainstream historical fact of Greek mythology being the gods' frequent use of disguise when interacting with mortals. It was their way of testing piety, offering veiled guidance, or sometimes just messing with people for divine amusement. In this case, it's Meryl Streep-level method acting, a transformation so complete that no one, least of all you in your current state of self-congratulation, would suspect her true identity. The disguised goddess makes her way slowly through the onlookers, who part respectfully to let her pass. Old age in ancient Greece was generally afforded a degree of reverence. Elders were often seen as repositories of wisdom and experience. A quirky tidbit being that to disrespect an obviously aged and vulnerable person was a significant social faux pas, quite apart from the added peril of unknowingly dissing a deity in a clever costume. She positions herself where she can observe you. Her keen, gray eyes, though now perhaps clouded by the convincing appearance of cataracts. Taking in your flying shuttle, the breathtaking beauty of the tapestry emerging on your loom, and, no doubt, the proud, almost disdainful set of your jaw. After watching you for a time, listening perhaps to your latest pronouncements about your unparalleled, self-taught genius, the old woman clears her throat, a dry, papery sound. "My child," she begins, her voice quavering slightly but carrying a surprising weight of authority. "Your skill with the loom is indeed a marvel. Truly. Few mortals have ever achieved such artistry, and your fame is well-deserved among your own kind. You might pause your weaving, perhaps a little surprised that this ancient creature has dared to interrupt your flow. You look at her, this relic from a bygone era, and maybe a flicker of impatience crosses your face. You're not exactly known for your warm reception of unsolicited feedback, especially from those who look like they might offer you a hard candy from a dusty pocket. The crone continues, her gaze steady. It is a wonderful thing to be the best among mortals, to win praise and admiration for your talents. Cherish that, child. Be content with the glory that is rightfully yours in the human realm." Her tone is gentle, almost kind, but with an underlying seriousness. But take an old woman's counsel. One who has seen many seasons pass, do not strive against the gods. Do not compare your abilities to theirs, for they are of a different order altogether. Seek pardon from Pallas Athena for your rash words. She is merciful to those who show contrition. This is it, your final off-ramp before the mythological pile-up. A clear, albeit gently delivered, warning. She's essentially saying, "Kid, you're amazing, truly, 5 stars. Would recommend your tapestries, 9 to 1, but maybe dial back the I'm better than the gods rhetoric before you find yourself in a seriously sticky situation. Now, if you were a different sort of person, a more cautious or pious soul, you might pause. You might consider the wisdom in the old woman's words, the potential truth in her warning. You might even feel a flicker of unease, a dawning awareness of the dangerous path you're on. But you are Arachne, and your pride, so carefully cultivated, so fiercely defended, is not easily swayed by the cautious ramblings of some anonymous old lady, however well-intentioned she might seem. You've got your I'm the best narrative, and you're sticking to it. Historians still argue whether these divine disguises in myths were primarily just clever plot devices to create dramatic irony and allow for these kinds of pivotal interactions, or if they tapped into deeper societal anxieties about the unseen presence of the sacred in the everyday. Urging a general caution and respect towards strangers because you never knew who might be a god slumming it, your reaction, therefore, is probably less thoughtful contemplation and more barely concealed annoyance. You likely see her as just another voice of mindless tradition, another person who can't comprehend true self-made genius. This old crone, with her talk of seeking pardon and being content with mortal fame. What does she know of the fire that burns within you? The absolute certainty of your own supreme skill. She probably thinks a really exciting afternoon involves competitive napping. The disguised Athena watches you, her ancient eyes missing nothing of your dismissive posture. The arrogant tilt of your head, the way your fingers twitch. Eager to get back to your loom? Your true source of validation? The counsel has been offered. The warning, however gentle, has been delivered. The next move is yours. Arachne? And the fate of your threads, and indeed your very form, hangs precariously in the balance, depending entirely on how you choose to respond to this unexpected, divinely inspired bit of elderly advice. The disguised Athena, her ancient form a carefully constructed mask of gentle concern, has delivered her counsel. She's offered you a lifeline, Arachne, a chance to temper your soaring pride with a measure of wisdom, to seek pardon and be content with your already considerable mortal fame. The air in your Lydian workshop is thick with unspoken tension. The crowd of onlookers holds its collective breath, waiting for your response. Will you heed the old crone's warning? Will you, for once, allow a sliver of doubt, a touch of prudence, to enter your fiercely self-assured heart? Spoiler alert, absolutely not. Your self-preservation instincts appear to have been entirely replaced by an extra helping of arrogance. You stare at the old woman, this frail figure daring to suggest you should beg forgiveness from a goddess you believe has contributed precisely nothing to your art. A slow, contemptuous smile spreads across your face. Perhaps you even let out a short, sharp laugh, a sound devoid of mirth, full of scorn. Save your breath, old woman, you sneer, your voice dripping with disdain. Your wits are clearly as frayed as your cloak. Why should I seek pardon from Athena? For what offense for being more skilled than she is, for daring to speak the truth of my own genius? You're not just rejecting her advice, you're practically spitting on it, then setting it on fire. The old woman's expression, if you bothered to truly look, might show a flicker of profound sadness, or perhaps the steely glint of resolve hardening within her disguised eyes. But you are too caught up in your own righteous indignation, your own absolute certainty. If Pallas Athena truly possesses the skill she's credited with, you continue, your voice rising, your challenge now ringing out for all to hear. Then let her forsake her cowardly disguises and her reliance on whispers. Let her come here herself. Let her stand before me, loom against loom. Let us weave, and the world shall judge which of us is the true mistress of this art. Boom! There it is. The gauntlet, thrown with such force it probably created a small crater. You haven't just doubled down on your hubris, you've raised the stakes to celestial levels. This isn't a vague boast anymore, not a muttered comparison. This is a direct, public, unequivocal challenge to a major Olympian goddess, issued with all the subtlety of a charging rhinoceros. The crowd around you visibly recoils. People start backing away, their faces pale with terror. They might admire your weaving, Arachne, but nobody wants to be standing too close when the divine lightning inevitably strikes. You can almost hear them thinking, well, it's been nice knowing her. Slightly, this act of issuing a direct challenge to a deity, particularly in their own specific domain of expertise, is a mainstream historical fact of Greek mythological narratives. It was the ultimate transgression, the absolute peak of hubris, and it was invariably understood to invite swift and terrible retribution. Think of Marsyas challenging Apollo to a music contest, or Thamyris boasting he could outsing the muses. Their stories did not end with a friendly handshake and a better luck next time. Aye, the gods did not appreciate being called out by mortals, no matter how talented those mortals might be. It was a disruption of the cosmic order, an affront to their divine dignity. The disguised Athena doesn't flinch. Her quavering voice, however, gains a sudden, unexpected firmness. She has heard you, Arachne, the old woman says, and there's a new, chilling resonance in her tone. She will come. It's at this moment the old crone probably thinks. Okay, Plan A, gentle warning, was an epic fail. Proceeding to Plan B, epic celestial beatdown. A quirky tidbit from the study of these myths is how the gods often seem to operate with a certain, albeit self-serving, etiquette in their dealings with mortals. Offering a warning, even in disguise, was often portrayed as a final chance, a divine courtesy before the hammer came down. By rejecting such a warning so contemptuously and then escalating the offense with a direct challenge, a mortal was essentially signaling they were beyond the reach of counsel and fully prepared to face the consequences of their pride. You, Arachne, have just sent that signal loud and clear, with bells on. Your words, your rash, arrogant challenge, now hang in the air, irrevocable. You've burned your bridges, not just with common sense, but with the entire Olympian pantheon. Your father, Idmon, is probably a quivering wreck by now, wishing he'd stuck to dyeing wool a nice, safe, uncontroversial shade of beige instead of that attention-grabbing purple. Your few remaining sycophantic admirers might be cheering you on, but even their support likely sounds a bit hollow in the face of the cosmic showdown you've just instigated. Historians still argue whether such mythical contests between gods and mortals, like the one you've just demanded, were intended purely as straightforward symbolic tales about the importance of respecting divine authority and natural boundaries, or if they sometimes carried deeper, more complex resonances, perhaps reflecting real-world rivalries between different religious cult centers, where one deity's cult superseded another's, or even between competing artistic schools or traditions, with the losing mortal weaver or musician representing a suppressed or superseded local art form. Whatever the deeper meaning for you in this moment, it's terrifyingly personal. You've picked a fight with a goddess, and not just any goddess, but one known for her strategic brilliance and her fierce protection of her domain. Your heart might be pounding, a mixture of exhilaration at your own audacity and perhaps, just perhaps, the tiniest, most deeply buried flicker of uh-oh, but it's too late to take it back. The challenge has been issued. The mortal weaver has dared to scorn the wisdom offered, and has instead demanded a trial by tapestry. The threads of fate are now pulling taut, and the silent, awe-inspiring presence of an Olympian goddess is about to make itself known in your little Lydian workshop. The air crackles with anticipation, and not just from static electricity off the wool. The old crone's final words, "She will come," still hang in the supercharged air of your Lydian workshop, heavier than any tapestry you've ever woven. You, Arachne, stand there, your scornful laughter perhaps dying in your throat, a defiant glint still in your eyes. You've made your bed, woven from threads of pure audacity, and now it seems a goddess is about to lie in it, or more accurately, to judge it. And then, before your very eyes, The transformation begins. The bent figure of the old woman starts to straighten, the gnarled staff falling away as if it were merely a prop, which, of course, it was. The wrinkled skin smooths, imbued with an inner radiance. The faded, frost-colored hair darkens, coiling into lustrous locks beneath an unseen circlet. Her stooped shoulders broaden, her form growing taller, more majestic, radiating an aura of immense power and serene, yet formidable authority. The very air around her seems to shimmer and thrum with a new energy. This is no mere costume change. This is a divine unveiling, an epiphany. A mainstream historical fact of Greek religious belief was that such manifestations of a deity in their true form were potent, awe-inspiring, and often dangerous moments for any mortals present. You don't just casually bump into a goddess in her full glory and then ask her about the weather. A quirky tidbit often accompanying these divine reveals in mythology was the presence of uncanny signs. A sudden, inexplicable fragrance might fill the air. Not the usual Lydian Divat special. Mind you, a preternatural light could illuminate the space, or animals might react with fear or reverence. Perhaps the sparrows nesting in the eaves of your workshop suddenly fall silent, or the threads on your own loom seem to vibrate with an unseen energy. The remaining onlookers, those who hadn't already scarpered when you issued your challenge, now have definitive proof that this isn't just some unusually assertive senior citizen. They are likely prostrating themselves, hiding their faces, or simply frozen in abject terror. The nymphs, if any are still around, have probably dematerialized back to their respective rivers and forests so fast they've left little nymph-shaped smoke trails. They'll be talking about this in Nymphville for centuries. And there she stands. Pallas Athena, her gray eyes, no longer clouded by age but clear and piercing as a winter sky, fixed upon you. She might be clad in a simple yet exquisitely draped peplos. Or perhaps she allows a hint of her warrior aspect to show, the glint of her helmet, the formidable weight of her aegis, her spear held lightly but with undeniable authority. There's no mistaking her now. This is the Olympian, the daughter of Zeus, the goddess of wisdom, strategy, and the very craft you have claimed as your own exclusive domain. The atmosphere in your workshop has gone from awkward family dinner to imminent divine smackdown in approximately 10 seconds. You could cut the tension with one of your sharpest weaving combs. You wished for a contest. Mortal Arachne? Her voice is no longer the quavering whisper of an old woman. It is clear, resonant, carrying the effortless power of the divine, a voice that could command armies or inspire masterpieces. You desire to pit your skill against mine, so be it. Athena accepts your challenge. Now, Arachne, this is your moment. Your actual moment of truth. Faced with the undeniable, awe-inspiring presence of the very goddess you've been bad-mouthing. What do? Does a lifetime of accumulated pride and self-belief shatter in the face of this divine revelation? Do you fall to your knees, babbling apologies, begging for the forgiveness the crone suggested? That would be the sensible option. The self-preservation option. But Sensible and Arachne have apparently decided to see other people. Perhaps there's a flicker of fear, a sudden cold knot in your stomach as the sheer, terrifying reality of your situation crashes down upon you. This isn't some abstract debate anymore. This is an actual goddess here, in your workshop, and she does not look amused. But then, that indomitable pride, that fierce conviction in your own unparalleled artistry, surges back. You've come too far to back down now. To grovel for forgiveness would be a betrayal of everything you believe about yourself, about your art. So you meet Athena's gaze. Your heart might be hammering like 1,000 loom weights. But you lift your chin. Maybe your voice trembles a little, but you manage to say something like, "I am ready." Or if your arrogance is still at full throttle, "It will be my honor to defeat you, goddess." Oh, Arachne, you just keep digging. The stakes for this contest are not explicitly spelled out in a contractual agreement with small print and witness signatures. There are no discussions of prize money or bragging rights. When a mortal challenges a god, the stakes are implicitly understood. The mortal gambles their reputation, their future, often their very life and form, against the god's honor and authority. Winning, for a mortal, is almost unthinkable. And even if they win by some measure of skill, the consequences of having dared to compete can be devastating. The gods, as a general rule, are not gracious losers. Athena isn't here for a friendly crafting bee. She's here to reassert divine supremacy and make an unforgettable example of you. Historians still argue whether the primary function of these divine epiphany scenes in ancient myths was to inspire religious awe and reinforce popular faith in the gods' tangible power and presence in the world, or if they also served as critical narrative catalysts, forcing mortal protagonists to confront the direct and often irreversible consequences of their choices and character flaws. In your case, Arachne, it's definitely serving as a catalyst. The disguised warning failed, therefore, the direct manifestation is the necessary next step to bring the conflict to its inevitable crisis. The contest is now set, irrevocably. Athena, in her divine majesty, has accepted your challenge. There will be no further warnings, no more chances for apology. The looms will be warped, the shuttles will fly, and the tapestries will tell their silent, potent tales. Your little Lydian workshop, once a place of merely human, albeit extraordinary, artistry, is about to become the arena for a cosmic confrontation, a battle of threads and wills. And the world, or at least the small, terrified portion of it, still brave enough to peek, holds its breath. Athena's divine radiance fills your humble Lydian workshop, her acceptance of your challenge echoing in the suddenly profound silence. The few onlookers who haven't already made a tactical retreat to, say, the furthest corners of Lydia, are probably wishing they'd stayed home and taken up something less stressful, like competitive snail watching. You, Arachne, having stared into the very eyes of an Olympian and not immediately turned to dust or begged for mercy. Now face the practicalities of this rather epic showdown. There's an awkward pause. Do you offer the goddess a cup of tea? Make small talk about the weather on Olympus? Probably best to just get on with it. Without another word, Athena indicates where she will set up her loom. Perhaps she gestures to an empty space, and with a subtle shimmer of divine power, a magnificent loom materializes, its wood gleaming with an otherworldly polish, its fittings perfectly aligned. Or maybe she simply appropriates the finest loom available in your village, which, by some divine coincidence, happens to be right there. You, in turn, stand before your own familiar warp-weighted loom, the instrument of your many triumphs, the one that has become an extension of your very soul. This isn't just any loom, this is your loom, the one that knows the touch of your hands, the rhythm of your weaving. It's like a seasoned musician facing a legendary rival, each with their chosen, cherished instrument. Now begins the meticulous process of preparing for this textile battle. The looms must be warped, the vertical threads strung with precise tension. This is a crucial stage. Any flaw in the warping will affect the entire tapestry. A mainstream historical fact is that the warp-weighted loom, the standard in your time, was an impressive piece of equipment. Tall and upright, the warp threads were tied to a top beam and hung down, kept taut by a series of clay or stone weights at the bottom. Weaving was done from the top downwards, beating the weft threads upwards. It was a public and often communal tool, but to create the kind of fine, intricate work you and Athena are capable of required immense individual skill and patience even in this preparatory phase. Athena, naturally, accomplishes her warping with a serene, almost effortless grace. Her divine fingers move with impossible speed and precision, the threads aligning themselves as if by an act of will. There's probably no fumbling, no muttered curses about tangled yarns from her side of the room. Her setup is likely flawless. a testament to her divine mastery. Perhaps it's even self-warping and comes with a divine instruction manual written in pure light. You, on the other hand, must rely on your mortal, albeit extraordinary, skill. Your hands, guided by years of relentless practice, move with their own familiar, uncanny grace. You select your finest linen for the warp, its threads strong and smooth, ensuring a perfect foundation for the masterpiece you intend to create. Despite the cosmic pressure, your focus is absolute. This is your domain, and even facing a goddess, your confidence in your own technical abilities does not waver. Next comes the selection of the weft threads, the wools, the silks, the linens, perhaps even strands of gold and silver, that will form the images of your tapestries. Athena, one assumes, has access to a celestial stash of yarns, colors unknown to mortal dyers, threads spun from moonlight or sunset clouds. You, however, turn to the best that Lydia can offer. Perhaps you select skeins of wool dyed by your father, Idmon, those vibrant purples and crimsons that first ignited your love for color. You choose threads of the purest white, the deepest indigo, the most delicate rose, your fingers assessing their texture, their strength, their subtle sheen. There's no pressure. Arachne. Just pick the yarns that will either seal your doom or, against all odds, ensure your eternal glory among mortals. The atmosphere in your workshop is thick enough to weave. The few remaining human spectators, probably including your terrified father, are huddled in a corner, scarcely daring to breathe. The nymphs, if any are still peeking, are likely doing so from a very safe distance, perhaps from behind the thickest olive tree they can find. The usual sounds of your village and the distant bleating of sheep, the laughter of children and the clang of a blacksmith's hammer seem to have faded away, replaced by a silence that hums with an almost unbearable tension. It's like the moments before a colossal thunderstorm, or Project Runway Olympian Edition, where the loser gets turned into something significantly less fashionable than last season's trends. Your internal state is a maelstrom. There's undoubtedly a knot of fear, a cold awareness of the monumental folly of your challenge. But battling with that fear is your indomitable pride, your absolute conviction in your artistic supremacy, and a fierce, almost exhilarating determination to prove yourself. You are Arachne, the weaver who surpassed all mortal measure. This is your ultimate test. You will not falter. You will weave the greatest tapestry the world has ever seen. A work so stunning it will compel even a goddess to acknowledge your genius. Or so you fiercely tell yourself. A quirky tidbit concerning ancient contests or significant undertakings is that participants often made small, specific offerings or prayers to relevant deities to ensure a favorable outcome. Perhaps to Hermes for cleverness or quick fingers, or Nike for victory. You, however, are in the rather unique and unenviable position of competing directly against your potential divine benefactor. Offering a quick prayer to Athena for help in defeating Athena might be seen as, shall we say, counterproductive. So, you rely on yourself alone. Historians still argue whether the depiction of gods engaging in these direct contests of skill with mortals, be it weaving, music, or even something like boasting about children, served primarily to elevate the status and perceived importance of those human arts by directly associating them with divine practice and Olympian standards. Or if the core message was always to reinforce the unbridgeable hierarchical gap between flawed human aspiration and serene divine perfection, a sort of don't try this at home. Kids, warning, whatever the scholarly interpretation. For you, Arachne, this is no abstract debate. This is terrifyingly real. Two looms now stand ready, aligned like dueling champions. The threads are chosen, the shuttles filled. The battle lines are drawn in fine Lydian wool and celestial silk. The epic showdown is about to commence. The looms stand ready, warped with threads of destiny. Yours Lydian and resilient. Athena's divine and shimmering. The air in your workshop crackles with a tension so thick you could practically weave it into a third. very uncomfortable and tapestry. There's no official starting gun, no referee's whistle, just a silent, shared understanding that the cosmic weave-off is about to commence. Perhaps Athena gives a curt, almost imperceptible nod, or maybe you both, driven by an internal artistic imperative. Reach for your shuttles at the exact same instant. And then, the shuttles fly. They fly like darts, like shooting stars, like avenging angels of artistry. Your human hands. Arachne. Those fingers that found their destiny in the feel of fiber. Now move with a speed and precision that is utterly breathtaking, even for you. All your years of dedication, your unwavering focus, your innate, uncanny grace, it all culminates in this extraordinary performance. Fear, if it was ever there, is banished, consumed by the white-hot fire of creation. You are in your element, your truest self, your spirit soaring with each perfectly placed thread. It's like watching a world-class athlete in the zone. Every movement economical, powerful, and precise. Except your arena is the loom, and your tools are color and texture. You select your threads with intuitive genius, a vibrant purple. Perhaps a nod to your Lydian heritage and your father Idmund's craft, a defiant splash of earthly royalty against Athena's celestial palette. You weave in the threads of crimson so deep they seem to bleed light, blues as clear as a mountain spring, greens that capture every nuance of a forest canopy. Your shuttle becomes a blur, a living thing, darting through the warp, laying down the weft with a speed that would be impossible for any other mortal. The rhythmic thwack, thwack, thwack of your beater bar, compacting the threads, is a fierce, percussive heartbeat in the charged silence. Images begin to bloom on your loom, colors blending, forms emerging with a startling, almost aggressive vitality. Across from you, Athena weaves with a different kind of intensity. Her movements are no less swift, no less precise, but they possess an effortless, serene divinity. There's no sign of strain on her majestic face, just a calm, focused concentration. Her threads, drawn from some celestial source, seem to glow with an inner light, colors that mortal eyes have rarely, if ever, beheld. Blues deeper than the midnight sky, golds more radiant than the sun, silvers that shimmer like captured starlight. Her shuttle, too, flies with impossible speed, and the tapestry emerging on her loom is one of august and divine majesty. Ovid tells us that Athena chose to depict her contest with Poseidon for the patronage of Athens. There, in shimmering threads, she weaves the Acropolis, the 12 Olympian gods sitting in solemn judgment, her father Zeus presiding. She shows herself striking the earth with her spear, and from it the sacred olive tree springs forth, its branches laden with fruit, her gift to the city, the symbol of peace and prosperity that won her its devotion. Poseidon, in contrast, is shown striking the rock with his trident, bringing forth a salt spring, a less useful, more tempestuous offering. The scene is one of order, divine wisdom, and the rightful triumph of thoughtful patronage. It's a clear, unambiguous statement of Olympian power and benevolence, a reminder of the gods' role in shaping the mortal world for the better. It's basically the divine equivalent of a perfectly executed corporate presentation, proving her superior value proposition. A mainstream historical fact is that weaving, especially the creation of complex, figured textiles like tapestries, was an incredibly laborious and time-consuming art in the ancient world. Even a small decorative band might take days or weeks. The supernatural speed attributed to both you and Athena in this contest underscores its mythic, larger-than-life nature. This isn't just skilled crafting. This is a miracle of creation unfolding in real time, like a time-lapse video of a flower blooming, but on fast forward and with way more divine judgment. As you both work, the tension in the room becomes almost a physical presence. The few remaining onlookers, if any are truly brave or foolish enough to still be there, are utterly transfixed, their eyes darting between the two looms, witnessing a duel of unparalleled artistry. There are no judges with scorecards, No commentators offering play-by-play analysis, yet everyone present understands the colossal stakes. Historians still argue whether ancient literary and artistic depictions of these mythological contests were intended by their creators and perceived by their audiences as literal accounts of events that were believed to have actually occurred in some mythic past, or if they were always understood as primarily allegorical narratives, exploring deeper themes of human ambition, the nature of divine power, and the established social and cosmic order. Literal or allegorical? The energy in your workshop right now feels very, very real. A quirky tidbit related to ancient textiles is the powerful symbolic meaning often invested in specific colors. Purple, as you well know, was associated with royalty, power, and divinity. White often signified purity or sacrifice. Red could mean courage, passion, or blood. Green, fertility and life. Your choices of color, and Athena's, are not accidental. They are part of the narrative, adding layers of meaning to the images you create. You are both speaking a silent language of hue and shade. Your masterpiece is growing, thread by thread, a vibrant testament to your skill, your passion, your fierce, defiant spirit. You pour all of your accumulated knowledge, all of your artistic soul, into this creation. The images are sharp, the colors blaze, the composition is daring and dynamic. And as you weave, a rebellious, audacious theme begins to take shape. A story that will be your ultimate, glorious, and incredibly perilous statement. For now, the shuttles continue their lightning flight. Your human hands, Arachne, creating a tapestry so breathtaking, so technically perfect, so infused with life, that it undeniably rivals the divine artistry of the goddess across from you. The contest is in full swing, and the outcome hangs by the finest, most tension-filled thread imaginable. The shuttles continue their frenetic dance, yours and Athena's, each pass of the weft adding another line to your respective masterpieces. Athena's loom, as we've seen, glows with scenes of Olympian majesty, a divine public relations piece showcasing wisdom, order, and the god's rightful authority. It's noble, it's impressive. It's exactly what you'd expect from a goddess defending her honor. Your loom, however, Arachne, is telling a very, very different story. As your tapestry nears completion, its central theme, woven with every ounce of your rebellious genius, becomes terrifyingly, gloriously clear. You are not just weaving beauty, you are weaving a scandal sheet, the TMZ of Mount Olympus. With breathtaking skill and an even more breathtaking audacity, you choose to depict not the glories of the gods, but their deceptions, their follies, their undignified and often morally questionable escapades, particularly their relentless pursuit and trickery of mortal women, and sometimes men. A mainstream historical fact is that Greek mythology is absolutely jam-packed with these kinds of stories. Zeus, king of the gods, was a serial philanderer, constantly transforming himself to deceive and seduce unsuspecting mortals. These tales were widely known, even depicted in other art forms, but to choose these specific narratives, in this specific contest, as a direct counterpoint to Athena's portrayal of divine order, that Arachne is an act of artistic defiance of the highest, most dangerous order, there, in vibrant Lydian wools and shimmering silks. You weave Europa, radiant and unsuspecting, being whisked away across the sea by Zeus disguised as a magnificent, deceptively gentle white bull. His divine eyes, even in bovine form, gleam with trickery, while Europa's expression is a perfect blend of fear and dawning realization. Not far from that, you depict Leda, her graceful form entwined with Zeus in the guise of a majestic, predatory swan, a scene both beautiful and deeply unsettling. You show Astri desperately trying to escape Zeus, transformed into a quail, only to be seized by him in the form of an eagle, a brutal aerial ballet of pursuit and capture. And your needle-sharp artistry doesn't spare the other gods either. There's Poseidon, Lord of the Seas, shown tricking Canacé as Enipeus and Iphimedia as a bull. He's there pursuing Medusa before Athena herself transformed her, adding another layer of, shall we say, awkwardness to your choice of subject. Apollo, god of light and music, appears in your tapestry in his various disguises to woo mortals as a shepherd for Isa, as a hawk, as a lion. Dionysus, the god of wine and revelry, is shown deceiving Erigone with a false bunch of grapes. Each scene is rendered with such exquisite realism, such fine detail, that there is no mistaking the identities of the divine perpetrators or the vulnerability of their mortal targets. You don't shy away from the discomfort, the trickery, the often unpleasant implications of these celestial dalliances. It's like you're creating an exposé. Gods behaving badly, woven in thread so fine it cuts to the bone. What is your artistic intent here? Arachne. Is it simply the ultimate act of rebellion, a desire to shock and provoke, or is there a deeper commentary? Are you using your unparalleled skill to expose the hypocrisy of these powerful beings who demand reverence while engaging in acts of deception and coercion? Are you saying, "Behold your perfect gods in all their flawed glory"? Perhaps you believe that true art must speak truth to power, even if that power is divine. Or maybe, in your supreme confidence, you simply find these stories more interesting, more dynamic, more full of the raw human and divine drama that fuels your creative fire than tales of boring old Olympian majesty. Whatever your precise motivation, the result is a tapestry that is not only a marvel of technical skill, but also a devastating critique. You're not just good, you're good and dangerously pointed. The skill itself is undeniable. Each figure is perfectly formed, each expression captured with heartbreaking or infuriating accuracy. The textures of feathers, fur, scales, the various disguises of the gods are rendered with such verisimilitude that they seem almost tangible. The colors are vibrant, the compositions dynamic. It is by any mortal standard a masterpiece of art and a masterpiece of insolence. You've managed to make the gods' very active social lives look both incredibly dramatic and deeply problematic, all with thread. As your scandalous scenes take shape, you must be aware of Athena, working at her own loom nearby. Can you feel the temperature in the room drop a few degrees? Her serene composure might be showing a few cracks. While she meticulously weaves her tale of divine order and her own triumph in Athens, she can surely see, or at least sense, the very different narrative unfolding on your loom. Her gray eyes, when they flicker towards your work, are probably less appreciative art critic and more calculating impending doom. She's crafting a hymn to Olympian glory. You're essentially weaving a divine diss track. A quirky tidbit of mythological interpretation is that sometimes even the gods themselves were considered subject to the overarching power of fate, or Moira. Their actions, however wild or seemingly capricious, could be seen as playing out a preordained, larger cosmic plan. Your tapestry, however, makes no such allowances. It presents these divine misdeeds as acts of will, of personal choice, highlighting the gods' agency and, by implication, their moral culpability. You're not letting anyone off the hook with a "fate made me do it" excuse. Historians still argue whether the frequent portrayal of the gods' flaws and immoral actions in Greek myths served as a genuine, if veiled, critique of religious or political authority by ancient storytellers and artists, or if these narratives were primarily concerned with exploring the complex, often chaotic and amoral forces of human nature and the cosmos, with the gods simply embodying these primal, larger-than-life energies. Your tapestry, Arachne, lands firmly on the side of critique, and it's about as subtle as a thunderbolt. The final threads are being woven into your audacious creation. It is a stunning, breathtaking, and profoundly dangerous piece of art. You have poured your soul, your skill, and your defiance into every stitch. You have held up a mirror to the gods, and the reflection is far from flattering. The contest is almost over, and Athena has seen what you have wrought. The last threads have been laid, the final audacious images locked into the weft of your tapestry. Your masterpiece of Olympian scandal hangs there, a vibrant, exquisitely crafted monument to your skill and your breathtaking impiety. Across from it, Athena's own creation radiates divine order and legitimacy. The shuttles are still. A heavy, charged silence fills your Lydian workshop, broken only perhaps by your own ragged breathing and the distant, terrified whimpers of anyone who hasn't yet managed to flee to another continent. The contest, it seems, is over. All that remains is the judgment. Athena turns from her own loom, her face an unreadable mask of divine composure, though her gray eyes seem to smolder with a suppressed light. She moves towards your tapestry, the one that so boldly depicts the gods, her divine family, in their most undignified and deceptive moments. She examines it closely, her gaze sweeping over each meticulously woven scene: Europa and the bull, Leda and the swan, Danae and the golden shower, all your greatest hits of divine misbehavior. Ovid, your chronicler, tells us that even envy personified, Invidia herself, could find no fault with the artistry. Technically, your work is flawless, a perfect, luminous testament to a skill that does, indeed, rival her own. This Arachne is your moment of ultimate artistic triumph. Enjoy it while it lasts, because it's going to last for about another 3 seconds. The goddess's composure finally cracks. The perfection of your skill, coupled with the profound impiety of your subject matter, is too much to bear. Her divine fury, held in check for so long, now erupts. With a cry that is less human and more like the tearing of ancient cosmic fabrics, Athena reaches out and seizes your magnificent tapestry. She doesn't just criticize it, she rends it, shredding your vibrant scenes of divine scandal with her own divine hands. She might even strike it repeatedly with the boxwood shuttle she used, reducing your masterpiece to a tangle of ruined threads and shattered pride. So much for a constructive art critique. This is more like a divine rage quit. Witnessing this, seeing your life's greatest work, your defiant statement, destroyed before your eyes by the very goddess you dared to challenge. Something within you finally breaks. The fierce arrogance, the unwavering self-belief. It all crumbles into dust. What rushes in to fill the void is a crushing despair, a terrifying understanding of the true consequences of your hubris. You look at the enraged goddess, at the tattered remains of your art, and perhaps for the first time, you truly comprehend the unbridgeable chasm between mortal ambition and divine power. Ovid says that in your grief and terror, unable to endure such ruin and humiliation, you try to take your own life, fashioning a noose from one of your remaining threads and attempting to hang yourself. It's a grim escape route, a final, desperate act. But Athena, it seems, is not quite finished with you. Perhaps a flicker of something akin to pity touches her heart, or perhaps she decides that a simple death is too easy an escape, too mundane a punishment for such spectacular insolence. She intervenes. "Live on then, wicked creature." Her voice rings out, cold and inexorable. "And still hang, and lest you be careless of future times, and as a warning to all mortals who might contemplate such defiance, may this same sentence be upon your race, on all your posterity to the last generation." As she speaks these words, she sprinkles you with the juice of some magical herb, perhaps aconite, the bane of Hecate. And then the transformation begins. It's a horrifying, yet strangely fitting doom. You feel your body begin to shrink, to contort. Your limbs wither and then sprout anew, thin, jointed, and far too numerous. Your fingers, those instruments of your unparalleled artistry, elongate and become hairy. Delicate legs, your head rounds, your features melding into the compact form of a spider. The beautiful Lydian yarns you so cherished are now replaced by the sticky, silken threads that issue from your own transformed body. Your world, once filled with vibrant color and grand designs, narrows to the intricate geometry of a web. You, Arachne, the greatest weaver the mortal world had ever known, are now and forevermore a spider, condemned to weave and reweave your delicate traps for all eternity. At least you'll never have to buy thread again. So there's that, I suppose. This transformation, this web of fate spun tight around you, is a punishment perfectly, cruelly tailored to your specific transgression. Your skill, your defining characteristic, is not entirely taken away, but it is debased, turned into an instinctual, repetitive act. Your pride in your beautiful hands is mocked by your many spidery legs. Your desire for fame is granted, but it is the fame of a creature often feared and loathed, whose intricate work is usually brushed away with a careless hand. A mainstream historical fact is that the very word for the class of creatures that includes spiders, arachnid, is derived directly from your Greek name, an eternal linguistic marker of your story. Spiders and their webs, in ancient cultures, often evoked a mixture of fascination due to the intricacy and apparent intelligence of their constructions, and a certain primal fear or distaste. A quirky tidbit is that in some folk traditions, spiders could be seen as bringers of good luck or even wealth if their webs were left undisturbed in certain parts of a house, while in others they were ill omens. Your fate ensures your image will forever be associated with patient, intricate, and sometimes deadly weaving. Historians still argue whether the primary purpose of the myth of Arachne was to serve as a stark warning against personal hubris and the dire consequences of disrespecting the gods, a straightforward cautionary tale, or if it also functioned as an etiological myth, a charter myth explaining the origin of spiders and their innate ability to weave such complex webs, thus integrating a common natural phenomenon into a broader theological and moral framework. It's likely both about the story that simultaneously explains nature and enforces societal and religious norms. Your human voice is gone, your grand ambitions silenced. All that remains is the instinct to spin, to create delicate, ephemeral patterns that will trap the unwary. Your tapestries once told stories of gods and mortals. Now, your webs tell only of hunger and survival. The vibrant Lydian dyes are replaced by the monochrome silk of your own making. The tragedy is complete. Your challenge was met, your skill was proven, and your doom was sealed, all by the threads you once commanded with such unparalleled and ultimately fatal pride. And so, Arachne, your human story ends, transformed into an enduring myth, a timeless whisper in the threads of a spider's web. The vibrant colors of Lydia, the proud defiance in your eyes, the unmatched skill of your hands, all these fade into the quiet, intricate reality of your new, eight-legged existence. The great contest is over, the looms are still, and a profound, cautionary silence settles over your tale. As we draw the curtain on this ancient drama, let the heightened emotions, the divine fury, and the mortal despair begin to soften. Let the image of that Lydian workshop, once filled with such vibrant life and audacious artistry, gently recede into the mists of time. The story of Arachne, a story of incredible talent and tragic pride, serves as a potent reminder from a world long past, a world where gods walked among mortals, and where the boundaries between human aspiration and divine prerogative were etched with sometimes terrible clarity. May the echoes of this tale settle lightly in your mind, not as a source of disquiet, but as a fascinating glimpse into the rich, complex tapestry of human imagination and ancient belief. Now, let the quiet of the night embrace you, and may your dreams be peaceful, woven with threads of serenity and wonder. End of script. Sweet dreams.